Okay, so here we are inside the first window of Autopano Giga. Um, the so the way I got here was I hit edit in Autopano Video. This is Autopano Video, and as soon as I hit edit, it took me into this program, Autopano Giga, and it takes me to the frame that I'm on uh, when the frame that I'm looking at inside Autopano Video. Um, and so I get to this tab and I hit this edit button. So it's edit and then edit. And so I don't know what that is. And here I am. So now I'm looking at I'm looking in Autopano Video, in Autopano Giga rather, the frame that I was looking at uh, in Autopano Video, and I'm looking at it at this point in the timeline, and I'm looking at it on this state in the timeline. So I'm in state 2. Okay, so that was state 1 over here, and now I'm in state 2, and this is my rendering area. This is the relevant area for me. Okay. So what I'm able to see in this is there's some information over here that tells me, the panorama needs to be optimized, blah, blah, blah. I know that. But I'm also looking at, I'm able to see that, there's more than one image over here. These are the kind of overlapping images, and I'm able to see like where the problems are in the image with the cow. So if I hit this button on the bottom, this is kind of a preview button, and it's giving me it's going to give me an approximation of what Autopano Video is able to see. So you'll use this button a lot back and forth. So what just happened? I'll do that again. I'm looking at the kind of original, I would say like reference image that Autopano is giving, and then this is the interpreted image, which has these kind of like cuts that are here, and you can see the difference between this guy's face. Here before it's interpreted, I can see his full head, but then it gets cut off in this render view. So now I have two options. I can kind of I can use this mask addition tool, which is the preferred tool that that Autopano kind of suggests I use in order to fix parallax errors. And I think we'll kind of go through that first, and then I'll show you sort of the benefits of it, and then some of the limitations, and then we can talk about kind of where you go from there. So here, so the way that the masking point tools work is it lets me on this line and on that state, it lets me kind of make a preference as to which camera I want the image to see. Now, this is kind of an interesting case because the cow's face is smack in the middle of 3 cameras, and unfortunately, I'm in a situation where they don't really line up. Like even if I choose, if I take this green dot and I take the preview button, I turn the preview button on so that I can see these lines, and I put a green dot right there, it's going to move the kind of camera image so that it falls, so that I get more of this camera, whichever number it is. So you can see. So now I have more of that, but that doesn't totally help me because in this camera over here, I like the cow's nose is actually kind of comes in this place on this camera, and the cow's nose is over here on this camera. So this isn't totally solving my problem. And now I have, if I actually save this, I'll just hit Command S, and I'm going to go back to Autopano Video. I'll see this wheel spinning. I'll see that it's going to change, and now I'll get more of the kind of cow's snout over here, but I'm going to lose the nose. So there, that updated. So this is, from one respect, it's a little bit better, but from another respect, it didn't really solve a problem. I just kind of went from having one problem to having a different problem, and that's kind of generally how a lot of the fixes happen. That's kind of how a lot of the tools in Autopano actually work. Is that you're forced to make a choice between lesser evils. Um, so in this case, I could kind of I can remove this one. I could remove this dot. I could remove this marker. And go back to the way it was, and then I can kind of, maybe try to add, many more markers, or maybe, maybe I'll, do a little bit better if I add a green marker here or a red marker here, and you could do this, you could do this pretty much endlessly, but at a certain point, I think you'll come to realize that this you're only going to get so far with this method. And and then another thing that's important is that even if you do get this to work, let's just take a quick look at how this gets translated. So in Autopano video, even if I have these marker points working, I'm just, for argument's sake, we didn't change anything in state number 1, so I'm just going back to the first state if you can remember. What I'm looking at right now is the transition that happens between state 1 and state 2. So I'm isolating it so that we can just see it, and then I'm gonna take a look at it right over here. My screen's not that big, so you kind of have to just trust that the timeline's moving over. I'm just hitting play so that I can play through. It's going to play pretty slow. I'll try to move it down a little bit so that, maybe, I guess not. Yeah, so there it's playing. So we're kind of looking carefully. There you can see some movement happening in the scene. And even though this cow's not moving at all very much yet, watch, there. So what you noticed is that there was this very hard, rude cut. And what you might assume is that if you just stretch this out, you'd get a transition that would make that kind of an easier and a smoother blend. And the literature in Autopano will tell you that it's possible to have a smoother blend, and even more so if you edit this. Actually, I'm on the wrong one. Hold on. If you edit, this mask tool, which is the one that you're affecting, you get these different interpolation types. So that would that does make it seem like these you could do easing functions or let's just try that again. So so this makes it seem like you could have different easing functions, but in reality, these basically won't work. The reason why is because you're only able to in Autopano Giga, you would only ever be able to transition between a point in which you already have a control point on your footage. So the strategy for dealing with that would be if you did want to use it, and I won't go too far into this, but I believe that the only way to actually use the masking tools as they're advertised is to do this method. You'd put one dot in each of your cameras, right from the beginning. Okay, so I'll put one up here. This is really slow. Okay, so let's say for argument's sake we have one in each, and that's not affecting the footage right now. I'm in state 2. Nothing's being affected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break and make I'm going to make a third state. And so now I'm doing this. I don't need to be doing, I don't need to be making a state in the stitch and the mask at the same time, but I'm doing it because it'll help me out later when I show you a different method. But for our purposes, the only line that we're actually making any changes on right now is the mask line. So let's just stick with that. So what I have now is I have this state that was created, and then that was state 2 that was created, and then state 3, because I made the cut here after state 2, cut 3 was created out of state 2. So if as long as I'm on state 2 or state 3, let's just say I'm on state 3 right now, if my computer will ever load, and I hit edit, it should take me to a place that's further down in the timeline, but that also has one control point in each of the cameras. Okay, so that looks like let's see what happens. Okay. So, let's see. Okay, so it's definitely further down, but actually it didn't take it didn't hold the control points from the first from that cut that I made. It was now holding control points from the first state. So actually, it's very possible that change that I made last time didn't save. So in order to get that to work again, I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to come back to this state. I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to be very, very certain that that I was able to save my points on each one. Now, Autopano is a very fussy program. It's kind of why you end up with all of these. You end up with a lot of back and forth where you thought you made a change and it didn't quite work. It's just a very flawed program, but it's the one that we have right now, so that's what we're going to be working with. Okay, so again, moving back to this, I'm in this state. I'm going to take this dot, put it there. I'm going to remove this one. And I'm just going to add one more at the center of each camera. Now again, the reason I'm doing this is because the only way I can use the transitions that exist in Autopano on the AVP timeline, so that's on this timeline, the transitions that would be possible inside an area is inside a transition area is to transition from a point that already exists in the timeline, so or a point that already exists in the reference image, so that's these, to another point that already exists in the reference image. So for example, if I have a dot that's over here and I move it to this spot here, that will allow me, I can do a transition on that. But if I want to do a transition I'm just going to hit Command Z and go back. But if I wanted to do, say, a transition where there was no dot here, and then I want to add one, that's going to be a hard cut. That's just the way that Autopano works right now. Command Z isn't working, so let's just save that. And I'm going to save it a couple of times to make sure that it saves. And then I should, when I do make a save, I should see the save happen over here when I go back to this program. If not, it's usually worth just hitting Command S a couple more times to make sure that the data is sent back to Autopano video and that it gets saved. Okay, so now for example, when I add a point, let me add a second point right here. And so what this is going to do is it's just going to make sure that I have a wide distance away from this guy's head. And that way I can make sure that actually in no case am I ever going to have his head being cut off. He's a background, he's far enough away from the camera that that's usually doable to kind of make that fix. And for my purposes on this footage, that would actually be a fix. I'm going to move this this back here to the beginning because that means that any change that I made on this state, as long as I move this back, it's also going to apply moving all the way back over here. And so there I go. I have his head kind of perfectly in square. I'm just going to save it. I'm going to save this project now. I have a unified stitch file, but I'm just going to call this. I'm going to put this in my little toolkit folder over here. VR Parallax Fixing Advanced. Okay, so now I'm gonna zero in on a more specific problem section because now that you've sort of seen how I deal with some of the kind of basic kind of minimal problems that I can fix with the Autopano masking tool in this timeline. I'm going to show you how I'll deal with two things. One is change over time, and then the second one is going to be how do I actually, when this doesn't work, when this masking tool doesn't work, what do I do? What do I do next?